Welcome to Faith and Hope Temple Church of God in Christ. We are very grateful that you could come out. We are most appreciative that our voting community is interested in what we need to share with other voters so that on election day, and when they're voting for the position of Clerk of Circuit Court, they will know how to vote their ballot. But before I get into any more of that, I would like to first start our meeting off with prayer. This is God's house first. I ask that everyone remember and reverence that this is the household of God and all that we say and do tonight. With that said, I would like Minister Goodwin to come forth and lead us in prayer.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Let's stand to our feet in reverence. It's good to see everyone out here. This is a very important matter. So we need God to lead direction. Amen.
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 Let us all just bow our heads to the Lord in prayer. Precious Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you this evening, God, for each and every one who are present here today. And we thank you, God, for blessing us, God, to just bringing us, Lord, through another day. We thank you, God, for this meeting. And as we come, Lord God, we thank you today, God, for all in attendance and others in their absence. We're here, Lord God, because we represent the community. And you told us, God, in your word, that when it comes to business, we are to be men. So we're asking you, Lord God, to lead us and direct us in our path this afternoon. We need your direction, and we ask you, Lord God, not to just look on the saints and the members of the church that are here, but look on these candidates. And God, that they have the courage to step out for this position. And so we ask you, Lord God, to have them come forth with the right motive, the right intention, and then, Lord, you lead and direct us, God, in what to do and how to go about doing it. We ask for your wisdom, your understanding, and once again, your godly direction. And for all these things, Father, we thank you, and we give you praise and glory for. We thank you, God, for the shepherd of this house, Dr. Crockett. We ask you, Lord God, that you bless him, bless his congregation, and God, we thank you for all that you have done here at Faith and Hope. And we will continue to give you all the glory. Amen.
Amen.
At this time, I would also like to acknowledge our Bishop, Bishop Herman Crockett Jr., if you would please stand. We're very appreciative that he was behind this initiative and understood the importance of us having a meeting tonight. Just to let you know, this is very informal in that this is mainly to make sure our voters understand when they go to their voting precincts on election day that the position for Clerk of Circuit Court is a write-in position. They won't have anything other than what someone at the 40-foot line or on the other side of the 40-foot line might provide to them as far as understanding how to vote for this position. So we want to make sure as many of our citizens understand how to vote for that position and what to do. And we're asking each of you to be so kind as to, as someone said, each one teach one, each one of you share with someone else. You know, do you know, did you know, can I help you, so that they will be informed on election day and they won't get into the polling place and realize that there's no one that can really give them answers once they're inside that polling place. With that said, some of the key things that we want them to know is that when they're voting the position, they need to make sure they circle in and then the little circle and make sure they color it in fully, and that they have an idea of who it is they want to vote for. And if they think they may not know how to spell a name, just write it on a piece of paper so that they will have it handy. It's just important for them to know. And that's what we should do as a community. We should be out helping each other and making sure that people know and they are informed. So with all said and done, that is the gist of what this meeting is about, making sure people know about the candidates that have already provided paperwork for the position, understanding that these are options that they have. By all means, when they go in, it's their vote and it's their personal decision, but so that they can be somewhat informed. With that said, some of the literature that you will see on the table would be this stapled copy of the Pocket Guide for Voters, Voting Tips, Assessing the Voting Options, and not to forget the photo ID when you vote. Also is a copy of the sample ballot. Now, it is too late to vote absentee, but people can still on Saturday go to the polls. And they can take one of these forms and have it filled out and ready. Again, it is our responsibility to help each other. It really in all that we do, but if we help other people to understand about this position, clerk of the circuit court, and what they need to do to cast the vote for that position, then it would make the job easy for a lot of others on election day. And it would help voters to feel more empowered with the decision that they will make. With that said, the format of this evening's event is that the candidates will come up and they will share with you about themselves and why they feel like they are a good candidate for this position. After such time, we will allow the audience to ask questions. Again, I do say this is God's household. And we all have to do things decent in order and professional. So all I ask is that, if you feel like you want to ask a question, please do so. But let's be respectful in all that we do. Is that all right? Okay. With that said, when I said informal, I meant informal. So I will allow the candidates, I will say this, Mr. Walter Harris called me this afternoon and stated that he apologized that he would not be here, but he has a very important case in the morning that he has to prepare for. So with that, we know that he will not be here. We do have with us tonight Mrs. Christian Barber, Mrs. Mai Perham, and Mr. Henry Otis Brown. I did not give them any format as to who would come first, but you know what? Again, we're all professionals, so I'm sure when I step down, one of them will be ready to step up and share their feedback of why they feel they are the likely candidate. So without further ado, which of you candidates would like to start first? If not, I'll have to put your name in a hat and draw. Okay, alphabetical order, by last name. That would put.
That would be me.
Christian Barber. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for willingly being the first. Okay, you can have the podium.
Thank you. Well, hello everybody. I am Kristen Barber. So part of my, my slogan is set the record straight. So I just kind of wanted to start off with, I'm new to Petersburg. I've only been here for under 2 years, but that shouldn't discredit me for running and wanting to do my part for the city. I care about what goes on here. I live here. I'm a homeowner, just like everybody else. I want to see the schools thrive. I want to see businesses grow. I want all those things just like y'all do. So when I found out that our current clerk didn't get her name on the ballot, that, made me want to look into what's going on. So I looked and I saw what was going on, and it was actually really disheartening to see what's been happening, and it's been happening for years. So again, I'm Kristen Barber, That's why I'm running. I saw what was going on. A little bit about me. I work in the medical field. I work for doctors. I run their finances. I make sure all the money that is coming in, all the money that's going out is going to the appropriate places, coming in, going to the appropriate places. If they are coming in late, that we're actually getting the interest that's due, because there are sometimes late payments and interest is due, and this is from insurance companies, which, let me tell you, they don't like giving up money ever. So that's my job. I also take care and make sure that all the records are taken care of for patients, that the that the doctors are writing in their notes, assistants are writing their notes, that they're put where they're supposed to be. They're scanned in to the correct places, the correct patients, and if there's still paper charts, they go back in the charts and filed away correctly, to where if we need to pull and we need to find something because a patient has a question or an insurance company has a question, we can find them. Right now in our Clerk of Circuit Court's office, you can't find documents. I've talked to numerous people who, they can't find marriage certificates. Titles can't be found. When you buy a house, the name change, it's not happening. It's taking months and months for it to happen, which is not good, because it should be updated immediately within probably, I would say, a week, not 6 months to a year. Because what does that do? That affects your property taxes. People, when they're looking up what's going on with houses, they can't find it. So, right now, our audit, our most current audit, we had 52% of errors. And that was just 50 cases that they looked at out of the whole entire year, which you're thinking, you have to count thousands. So I kind of started doing the math and estimated that the city is losing about $150,000 to $200,000 a year that should be going into the city. And right now, Petersburg, we need it coming into our city because we need it to grow, we need it to thrive. And I want that to stop. One of the concerns or statements that was made was we had high turnover. Well, every circuit court clerk that I've talked to all the way down to Mecklenburg, they have the same problem, but they have 0 errors. It's because they work with their team. They educate their team. They keep, continuing education, because we need to do that. You need to do cross-training. And another main concern is people aren't answering the phones. Well, you need to answer the phones. So you have to transfer that around, to all of the employees that are there, to where everybody's doing their job. I'm kind of getting off subject here. Another thing that happens in the circuit court clerk's office is real estate agents deal with them. Title companies deal with them. Right now, they don't want to deal with us. The reason why they don't want to deal with us is because they're treated with disrespect. They know that their documents are not going to be recorded properly and they're not going to be found again later. We need that to stop. We need it to be when a citizen comes in, a title company comes in, a lawyer, anybody comes in, documents can be found. And they're digitized to where they can be pulled, and even if we have to pull them, be able to pull them online, you can. So that's one of my things that I want to do. When I go in, I want to start working on the financial problems of why we have them, correct them, stop it. Make sure that next year we have 0 errors. I want it to be when people come in, they can ask the question, where's my marriage certificate? Where's my divorce certificate? Where's my, the deed, the titles to my house? Wham bam, you can have it, you can find it. Even when you're dealing with estates, say you lose a loved one, this is the most emotional time that you have. You don't want to go into the clerk's office and then say, I'm sorry, I can't find the documents that you need. You're emotional, so you're at a high right now. You need to be able to come in there and say, this is what's going on, we're on it, we get it to you, and you have it, and you can handle what's going on in your life. Right now, too, fees and fines are not being collected properly, and we need to change that. The judges, when they hand down fines, we need to be able to collect them. They need to go to the correct places. If they need to go and transfer to another locality, we need to send them to the right locality, because we've had that happen where they're not going to the right locality. That's kind of it for me right now. And lastly, the documents that go on in this office that are handed, that are dealt with, they're part of the history of Petersburg. And the history of Petersburg is important, and we need to handle them with care. They shouldn't be sitting in a box. in a dark room with the door closed, falling apart. Again, I plan on changing that, getting that digitized, where, again, it can be easily found online, because these are public records, and we should be, as a public, able to find them. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Hopefully afterwards we can do questions or, all right. Well, again, thank you. I'm Kristen Barber, and I look forward to seeing you guys on November 5th.
All right, I do have an announcement to make, a correction to say. Absentee ballot voting is going on through Saturday in person with ID from the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Just wanted to make sure I corrected that while you're all in here in the room. Because I need to get that vote done and they can't show up on election day. Please get them down to the polls. Next, we have Mr. Henry Otis Brown, and unless the candidates say so, we're just gonna let everybody talk, then we're gonna let everybody ask questions. Is everyone okay with that? Is everyone okay with that? Yes. Okay, like I said, this is informal, it is, this is all about education. I cannot emphasize that enough. I am trying to help educate somebody, and that is what this is really all about. So with that said, I'll now invite Mr. Henry Otis Brown to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
As she said, I'm Henry Otis Brown, and I'm delighted to be here this evening to be able to participate in this forum, or should we say debate. But I'm here by invitation to present myself to you, to make a case why I'm asking the voters to employ me on November the 5th by writing my name on the ballot for the Clerk of Circuit Court. Let me give you an overview of my background. As a practicing lawyer, I've handled criminal cases and I've handled civil cases in the General District Court, but also in the Circuit Court in the city of Petersburg and in the Tri-City area for a number of years. I have interacted with this clerk's office and other clerk's offices. But I live in Petersburg, and I've lived in Petersburg for over 30 years. So I've spent my time and money in Petersburg. I will be a working clerk that is approachable, that is accessible, and available. I will operate with an open door policy. So if you have a problem with one of the deputy clerks, then all you gotta ask, let me speak to the clerk. And I'll come out and talk to you. Because a lot of times people come to the clerk's office, somebody has told them what to do, but they may not understand exactly how the system works. And I don't mind explaining it to them. And I will explain it to them. I bring to that office of the Circuit Court Clerk's office my academic background. I have an earned law degree. I have a master's degree in management and administration. I have a bachelor's degree in mathematics. I am a Virginia licensed real estate agent. And I've earned the designation of certified real estate appraiser. C-R-E-A. My background provides insight and understanding when interpreting statutes, particularly in the Code of Virginia. For a clerk, the Code of Virginia is your Bible. That's what you got to follow. And you got to follow the guidelines enacted by the General Assembly. And I will do that. I'm also a grant writer, which I can utilize as a clerk. Now, let me give you a little bit of my work experiences. I've been a practicing lawyer of civil and criminal cases litigated in the circuit court, in the Virginia Court of Appeals, and the Virginia Supreme Court. These experiences have afforded me a better understanding of the law, of the courtrooms, and of the clerk office. I've taught law, management courses, real estate principles, real estate finance, and real estate law as a professor on the college level. With my experience as a professor and teaching on the college level, it gives me an understanding on dealing with people of all ages. I've also authored several academic articles on the topics of law, business, and real estate. I've also been a college administrator in my past. I'm involved in the community. As I said, I spent my time and my money in Petersburg for over 30 years. I'm a member of the Rotary Club, YMCA, Prince Hall Masons, the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and I teach karate as a black belt. So I'm asking you to write my name in. But let me give you some specific reasons why you should write my name in and what I plan to do in the clerk's office. Number one, write my name in because of my academic training. Write my name in because of my experience in practicing law. Write my name in because of my experience working on the college level. In the clerk's office, I'm going to identify realistic ways to reduce office waste. So that will save the clerk's office money that we can use to do other things. I plan to improve counter service. Sometimes you walk into a clerk's office and you see unfriendly faces and they talk unfriendly to you. If that happens, call me. Ask to see the clerk, and I'll deal with it. Also, I plan to develop a curriculum in the office to provide in-house training for staff. And I'm going to provide them the opportunity to train with the Virginia Supreme Court, because I believe in training. And a lot of that in-house training that I think will be needed by the deputy clerks, I'm going to teach it. And if the issues that I can't teach, then I'll bring in associates that will cover that. But I believe in training. I'm going to require staff that receive training with the Virginia Supreme Court to share this information with the office at an in-house training seminar. In other words, if you get this knowledge and get this information, bring it back to the office so I can benefit from it, so the other deputy clerks can benefit from it, and in the long run, the people will benefit. See, it's not about the deputy clerks. It's not about me as a clerk. I'm concerned with providing service for the people. Some folks just want to be elected to be a public servant. I believe in service, and that's what I've done most of my life, serving other people. I plan to find solutions to problems identified by the auditor of public accounts that was issued, such as delayed preparation of final criminal court orders and reduced fines and cost errors. I read the Auditor of Public Accounts findings about the Circuit Clerk's office in Petersburg, and there are a number of problems that need to be dealt with. Well, I plan to find solutions to those problems, because that's what a lawyer does. A lawyer is a problem solver. And some of those problems identified in that report, under my administration, I'm going to find the solutions to them. Because I want the image of the clerk's office in Petersburg, Virginia, to be positive. I want folks to leave that clerk's office and say, hey, I sure enjoyed going to the clerk's office in Petersburg because the people are friendly and they get the job done, and they got a clerk that will speak to me and be nice to me. Also, I plan to reduce staff turnover. I want to know why you got high turnover in the clerk's office. The office is not that big. Why you got high turnover? Well, I'm going to try to find what the problem is, identify it, and then I'm going to try to fix it. My concept in working in that clerk's office is a team concept. As I said at the beginning of my presentation, I will be a working clerk, not a clerk that sit in the office or sit up there in the front to socialize. I plan to be a working clerk so that we will have more efficiency and more effectiveness in the clerk's office. Some people already got a negative image of Petersburg. And as circuit court clerk, I don't plan to make it worse. I want to make it better. And it helps everybody. And see, a lot of business is done in that clerk's office, particularly in dealing with real estate transactions. You mentioned about real estate transactions. That's where the money comes from. When people buy houses, pay recording fees, that's where your money comes from. And you want to treat transactions involving money and the people, you want to treat them right. And that's what I plan to do. Now, as clerk, I plan to have a nice little box up there for recommendations, suggestions. You don't have to put your name on it. If you got a problem with the clerk's office, something ain't right, just write it up. You ain't got to put your name on it. Stick it in that box. The box is going to have a lock on it, and I'm going to have to own the key, and I'm going in that box every week and just see what the people have to say. That's how I'm going to do my informal survey, and that's how I'm going to make things, that's one of the ways I'm going to make things better in the clerk's office. So I'm asking you to write my name in, give me an opportunity to do what I told you I'm going to do. And that's on Tuesday. And you won't regret it. Write in my name, Henry Brown, because I want to be your next circuit court clerk. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions? Well, if I'm elected as clerk, feel free to bring me all the questions, because I want to be able to provide the answers. If I can't provide the answers, then nobody can. Thank you.
And definitely there could still be questions, but we want to try to give every candidate an opportunity to come forth. With that said, I do want to mention that candidate Shalva J. Braxton is not with us tonight. I did not want to not mention any name that was listed on my list of known filers of statements of organization. I'm sorry?
Say his name again.
Her name? Shalva J. Braxton. S-H-A-L-V-A. The current clerk. All right, with that said, our next candidate, last candidate before we start opening up for questions is Mrs. Mai Param. So she'll come forward, and then after that, we will open up for any questions that you may have. I thank you all for allowing me to be your moderator in training here.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And now my parents has the floor.
Good evening, buenas tardes, bonsoir. Bishop, thank you for letting us use your facility. Thank you for being a leader in discipleship and in citizenship by putting this together for us. My name is Mai Param. I've been here for 12 years. Since I've been here in Petersburg, I've taught, I like to meet people where they are. Okay? I've taught here in Petersburg for 7 years, middle school. Some of the hardest humans that we have. Okay? They brought me great joy. My aunt said that I was a mother to many. While at St. Joseph's School, I was PTA treasurer. I was also Teacher of the Year for 2017-2018. For me, service proves loyalty. When we elect officials, we need to make sure that we elect people who are loyal to Petersburg, because when they're loyal to Petersburg, they will always put Petersburg first. And all of their duties, and how they walk, how they talk, what it feels like, what it looks like. To me, you prove loyalty by the service that you provide to the people around you and in your community. Service is extremely important to me. Teaching citizenship to my children, to my colleagues, and to my neighbors is important to me. Part of my students' curriculum was 25 hours of community outreach, because that is important in being a good person. I volunteer at the Hope Center every week. My students did service projects for organizations in Petersburg every other month. Every week, they were bagging brown bags, 100 for the homeless. That was my life in St. Joseph's School. I also worked at St. Joseph Church, where we keep original records from the 1800s that only myself, my priest, the bishop, and the pope could look at. So I understand what it is to keep these antiquated paper records. Before I was with the school, I worked for a Department of General Services, a state agency. Those of you who have small businesses know what SWAM is, right? Small woman and minority-owned business. My role with the state is if a SWAM certified business wanted to do work with the state, they had to put a bid on it. But they had to be part of a billing process called EVA billing. I was that billing specialist. I dealt with check requests, thousands every month. I had to deal with the complaints from the state for vendors and vice versa. I was dealing with thousands of phone calls on a monthly basis. So I understand how to run an office, how to do simple paperwork, and I also came up with their check request system myself within the first 2 weeks of being there. Before that, before I came to Petersburg, my home, I lived in DC for 14 years. I worked for a lobbying firm, and my capacity in that lobbying firm was translations for African countries. I speak English, French, and Spanish fluently. I also did grant writing there. I worked very closely with prime ministers and heads of state. So I understand what it is to have a certain protocol, a certain feel, and a look to deal with certain type of people. I also worked for an NGO, a nonprofit called the Aspen Institute. Simply, the Aspen Institute is a think tank for political leaders, companies, heads of companies, and other nonprofit organizations. The scope of their work and I was part of their program management, was a call to action to the presidents and senators about the energy, environment, and economy. I edited those papers. I also did grant writing for that nonprofit. Those are my credentials. I am more than qualified to run an office, a staff, financial records, general ledgers, budgets. I know the protocol to deal with judges, attorneys, and the public. Since I started my campaign, I have been going door to door every day, even today in the rain, meeting my Petersburg neighbors, because they don't know what the Clerk of Court does. When you have time, I have the handbook printed out from the state for you to review. You can also download it yourself. The Clerk of Court, this position was left vulnerable. There's no one on this ballot. As a concerned Petersburg citizen, I could not let this just be open to anyone. To slide in and take a position in Petersburg that doesn't understand our history, our culture, here in Petersburg. I've been here for 12 years. I work in the community, not just Facebook ops, but I'm out there every day, every week. And those who are around me do the same. That's called integrity. When I heard that there was no one on the ballot, a few attorneys approached me because they understood my credentials and they knew my work ethic. You know, teachers are the first to go and the first to go in and the last to leave, and everything in between. So they knew I was a hard worker, and they knew that there was a lot of work to be done in that office. My process in this was first to download that book to understand just a small scope of what that court clerk does. After downloading that book, I understood that this is very black and white, a lot of the duties that come straight from the state, which trains you and can train your deputies. After doing that, I called a few localities because I still had a lot of questions about the clerk's office, how it run, the staff. And I was able to reach out to a few that were willing to answer questions. And there was one that allowed me to shadow her in the courts and the records room and interview her staff. After I did that, did I realize that I could do this, I could convince people that I could do this, and that I was the one for this position. I was looking for a successful clerk of court to talk to. This woman is in her 3rd term. She has had a very low turnover because her staff, her deputies are loyal to their city, not to that clerk. When you have a leader that is loyal to the people they serve, then their team follows. After shadowing her and interviewing her staff, and she was a bank teller, the scope of this work is a judicial, clerical customer service position. That customer service piece is important not just to the judges, the attorneys, and the citizens, but Petersburg is growing. We see that with all of these beautiful historic homes that are being bought from people from other cities, states, but we need to make the process seamless for them so that more people come, or they come back and buy more houses. All of us can be suckers for convenience, right? Well, we need that office to be convenient with all of the information that is in there. And the piece that's missing is technology. Some people are scared of technology. I embrace it, but I'm very, very weary of technology that is not user-friendly. Working with Eva Billing, part of my job was to explain how to use that e-procurement to gain bids for small businesses that didn't use the computer. I want to make sure that I find proper databases for the land records that are laying around. Yes, there are other localities that we can call on, but this is not issues that cannot be resolved within a few months. Well, they are issues that can be resolved within a few months. It will not take that long. It's just finding the proper technology that is user-friendly, but even greater than that, it's easy for the person that is going to do the data entry. Because the faster we get it in, the faster everyone can use it. Could you imagine someone coming from another city, another state, after seeing some of the movies? We've had so many movies filmed here in Petersburg. Everybody loves watching TV, and this fantasy that we have here of Petersburg, of these beautiful old homes. People want a piece of that. I want them to have a piece of that. So our schools will get better. Our streets will get better. God willing, we'll get new pipes for water. But we can increase that money that comes in if we have a seamless process of people who want to spend money. Yes, there are issues in that clerk's office, but there are good deputies in there. They just haven't had the proper leadership to pull it out. Part of being a good leader is also helping your team be leaders within groups that they are really great at. Yes, cross-training is necessary. Not one person should only do one job. We should all be able to do it. After I spoke to the Bar Association, a lot of what they said echoed what the citizens said, their concerns. Everything you've heard tonight about what's wrong with the office. Again, those issues will not take years to fix. It's a matter of technology, efficiency. The office closes because there's no air conditioning. How many of our students go to school and they don't have air conditioning? They don't have heat, but they have to go. Store manager, when no one shows up, who's at work? That's the type of leader we need. That is who I am. Ask my church community, my school community, my neighborhood. I founded my neighborhood watch 7 years ago. And the mission statement that I created for my neighborhood watch was to create a safe and clean neighborhood. And that is the mission of all of my neighbors. Why? Because as a leader, I want what I look like, what I feel like, and what I sound like to be reflected in everyone that's around me. I ask you to please look at the duties of the clerk court. Think about who you would want to be running that clerk office. What do you want it to look like? Who can actually lead the team? Who's led teams? As a teacher, I was middle school team leader. I was the lead on classroom management, which is a hot topic in middle school, let me just tell you. Classroom management, to be the leader on that, takes great patience, not just for the students, but for the teachers. And that's what I'm going to ask of my deputies. I want to make sure my deputies are loyal to Petersburg. I want to make sure that office reflects who I am. I've been here for 12 years. I care about Petersburg. I'm not here for a title, but I'm tired of people saying, oh, that's just Petersburg. This job is paid by the state. We will be represented, Petersburg will be represented at the state level by me. My name is Mai Param. I pray that you will consider and vote and write my name in because you stand by my credentials. You believe in everything that I have told you today. Petersburg needs better leadership in that office, and I will bring that. Agradezco su tiempo Thank you for your time. I speak 3 languages, English, French, and Spanish fluently. It's another thing that's missing in that court. Thank you. For my praying families, I ask that you pray for myself, because I'm out here every day by myself. I have not passed the buck on to anyone else because I need people to know me. In the mornings, in the evenings, Miss Little Thing over there has been with me, knocking door to door, so pray for our peace and our protection. And pray for our city. You being here shows you are a concerned citizen. And this is something new for a judicial clerical customer service seat, the court clerk. So it shows that you care about all of the positions. And I do too, and that is why I am a write-in. I could not just let anyone come in and slide in who has no loyalty to Petersburg. Again, thank you for your time.
We have heard from all of the candidates that are here with us tonight, and now we will open the floor for questions. Again, I do reiterate that this is God's household first. We want you to ask questions. We want you to feel comfortable when you leave here that you have a better knowledge of the candidates, but we just ask that you tastefully and professionally answer your questions. That's all we ask. Thank you. And with that said, as the first individual that would like to ask a question, if you want to stand and ask your question, please do so. And then, let the candidates know if you are directing the question to a specific candidate, or if you're directing it to all candidates. So at this time, we have our first volunteer. Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Great form, a menu, putting it together. Bishop and I go all the way back. When I started quite a long time ago. My question is, with me being a former city councilman, delegate, and a mortician, and Ms. Barbosa mentioned the importance of the clerk's office when it comes to wills, probate, everything else. That directly ties into me being a mortician. So my question is, I saw where you, Mr. Brown, and my class, have not filed some paperwork on time. My question is, reason why has it been corrected and everything associated with it?
What paperwork are you talking about? I know another candidate, there's talk of not filing paperwork on time, but I don't have any, I'm not an attorney, so I don't,
I understand.
yeah, I'm not, there's no paperwork that hasn't been filed on time on my part. So I'm not quite sure of
Have
the
you seen
question.
this?
No, I have not seen that.
Thank you. And the importance of filing paperwork, meet death certificates and everything else.
Oh, so you have my name on the ballot?
No. See? Now, print.
Oh, my financial report?
Yeah, for the link.
No, everything has been turned in on time. I haven't had any late filings. I'm sorry that looks, I mean, I did correct, I had one thing that I needed to correct with one, but that was about it. I didn't file on time.
Okay, that was my question.
Oh, you mentioned my name, Mr. Blaine.
So
Let me see the document you're looking at.
I will.
Not only that, I filed one report one day late, and I've corrected that. Yeah, if there's anything else, then you dug it up.
No, I didn't get it up. It was handed to me when I came to work.
So I just want you to know that I did file one report, one day late. One day late. It was due on the 15th, I filed it on the 16th. Because see, dates and deadlines are important for me because as a lawyer for over 30 years practicing law, Mr. Blaine, I've had to file all kinds of documents and rarely am I late. I hate to be late going to court. I had, you be quiet, let me talk.
I didn't want to be late for your class.
Be quiet, let me talk. I got the floor. For this forum tonight, I want you to know I was here at 7 o'clock because I don't like to be late. And when I turned that document one day late, I looked at the calendar wrong. I thought it was due on the 16th. I looked at the calendar wrong. And as soon as I found out I made a mistake, I went and corrected. Not only did I talk to the registrar, I was so concerned that I drove to Richmond, Mr. Bland, to the State Board of Elections to make sure my stuff was right. And as your clerk, I'm going to have the same kind of energy, enthusiasm about getting that job done in the clerk's office. And if you got a problem, bring the problem to me. You don't have to have a forum to try to bring up something that I did wrong. Bring it to me. And when I find out I did something wrong, I want to correct it because I want to get things right. I want to do what's right. And that's the kind of person I am, and that's the kind of clerk I'm going to be. But I realize and I understand politics. But sometimes when one person favors another candidate, they dig up what you call dirt and things you've done wrong to try to make you look bad. Try to make her look bad. Or try to make me look bad. But my point is this. We all have flaws. You got flaws, Mr. Wayne. I could expose you, but I'm not. See, you got flaws. Okay? So my point is this, is that I want to get it right. Just like you want to get it right. You understand? Okay, thank you. You can have a few to read this.
That's the beauty of a moderator in training, because whatever I say or do, I'm trained. Again, I will say, just proper, professional, and order. All right.
Since all the candidates were able to respond, I'd like to respond as well. All citizens have a right to everyone's financials. They're online. Anybody can pull them. You just go to the Board of Elections, type in our names, and you find it. Okay? It's free information, and it's open to everyone. Okay? The court clerk's main duty is paperwork. Yes, there may be some issues with people's paperwork, and they could have corrected. But if we're making mistakes this early, that's a problem. You are able to pull up these financial records, and also the blank ones, and see that it's not like filing a tax return. It's not that hard. There are only 2 candidates that have not received letters from the registrar's office regarding any of their financials.
Yes, sir.
Question directed to you.
Sure.
Okay, you Miss Barbara, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, my name is Williams.
Yes.
And you say you shattered the clerk in Petersburg.
No, I did not shadow the clerk here in Petersburg. I've spoken to the clerks in the surrounding localities, and I've talked to them about the concerns that are here in Petersburg.
You did not
I
shatter.
shadow clerks, yes, sir.
You shattered the clerk. Excuse me.
Oh, no worries.
You say you shattered the clerk
Yes, sir.
in Petersburg. I've been to
No,
the Petersburg.
not in Petersburg.
Not in Petersburg?
No, but I have talked to the consultants there that work in Petersburg.
Well, then I got a question for both of you.
Okay?
You shattered clerks. and you
I shadowed,
understand
I'm the
that.
only one who shadowed clerks.
I've spoken to numerous times,
I
yeah.
So you
shadowed.
spoke to them, okay, you shattered.
Yes, ma'am.
I've been to the paper mill in the bottom of the clerk's office and whatnot, and it's a monster there. And you, both of you talk about improving the situation that's down there. Have you looked at the computers that they use and whatnot to see if it's gonna be able to tackle that new task and get it done?
So it would be programs that you use, and when I get there, then I would be able, that's part of the research. And that's part of my past, is also trying to find technology that matches not just the people who have to do the data entry, but the systems, okay? And until I get there, but their computers are like this. You can always add a brain to it, okay? And there probably needs to be upgrades in their basic systems, and there may be programs that we find that may need additional programs added to the computers they have. But in order for me to make a educated decision about that, first I would need to talk to IT department once I've vetted what works in other localities.
I just want to get an understanding.
Yes, sir.
Are you gonna be able to take care of the situation down there, or are you gonna start in with wobbling, trying to get them to buy some new computers or whatnot to handle the data that's there? Because when you're sitting there wobbling and trying to get like you said, a new brain, a new system and whatnot, that's gonna be delay still.
Yeah, well, as a teacher, I know how to make the most of just about nothing. And I'm very computer savvy, but I know how to work with little to no money. I've done that for the past 7 years, and all of my children have excelled. Technology does not have to be expensive and does not have to be hard to use or to learn to use. Again, my role has always been to teach in here, and I believe that if I find something that is teachable and easy to program, more people will embrace it.
All right, we have a question.
Well, actually, I was kind of hoping I could answer to that as well.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Depending on the technology of what's going on in the current circuit clerk's office, there are grants that you can get if the systems need to be updated, if they're outdated, to where we have better technology, and that's not going to be coming from the citizens here of Petersburg. They're grants that can be acquired to upgrade, and if that's what's necessary. Because I know right now we do have monitors down there that aren't working. That could also save us money from having inmates transferred from other localities into the court systems, that if we can get those upgraded, which again, those can be done by grants, not coming out of the taxpayer dollar, pockets.
Thank you.
Are you okay?
All right, so now we have a question in the back.
My name, excuse me, my name is George Friday, and I want to speak on behalf of Ms. Barbara and Attorney Otis Brown. Number one, statement was made, we all make blunders. I ran for city council and I made many blunders, and my question would be that you, without sin, you cast the first stone. We all going to continue to make blunders regardless of what job we get into. And when we make them, the key point is to correct them. As long as they are corrected, that's not the issue. We have to look at the most qualified persons that's ready to go into the job the first day. But my question would be, I just want to make that statement, is that there are, as you know, that Dinwiddie was annexed to Petersburg decades ago, and a lot of the properties and the documentation is yet in Dinwiddie. I would like to ask the candidate how they're going to address that when you go down to the clerk's office and you're trying to find a document, they are not there, and you have difficulties and problems when you are trying to communicate with Dinwiddie to get these documents. I would like to ask how you're going to do that, how you're going to coordinate and communicate with Dinwiddie to try to get all these documents brought back to Petersburg.
Well, actually, a lot of the circuit court clerks around this locality, they all communicate and have great working relationships. So with that tie of Petersburg, Dinwiddie, if it's something that hasn't already been brought over into Petersburg, it should be a quick phone call saying, hey Barrett, or one of his deputies, this is the document, this is the property that we're looking at. It might still be in your office. Can you send that over to us, or, send somebody over to go pick it up, bring it back to us. If it's digitized, they can email it to us within seconds. I actually have a quick question. Oh, I'm sorry. If you want to talk, I'll ask you.
I used to do title searches. I used to be a closer in real estate as an attorney. And when I was doing title searches, I would do a title search in Petersburg, and then I would find out that this property goes back to Dinwiddie before it was annexed. And generally what I did when I was doing title searches, I go back as far as I can in Petersburg, and then I go to the Dinwiddie Circuit Court Clerk's office to put both pieces together. Because when you do a title search, you want a history of the title. So you have to look at Petersburg, and you'd have to look at Dinwiddie to get all the documents accurate and lined up together. Now, we don't have the technology, as far as I know, where we can do it electronically. But that would be a goal to work toward.
With dealing with other localities, it's about building relationships. Picking up that phone and being able to call, make a phone call. I've proven that I'm able to build relationships just about everywhere. And court clerks it's a very tight group, and they want to help each other. It's like in the bar association, just like your teacher association. These are a group of professionals that want to be and see their colleagues successful. So it's nothing but just a simple phone call to another locality, asking them for information. And that works both ways.
You have a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
For Ms. Howard.
Yes.
First off, I'd like to thank you, and as well as the other candidates for coming tonight, because one of the difficulties that I've had is finding out about your platform. I'm a computer guy, so I look online, and I appreciate you taking the time to let us know what your background is. But one of the questions that has come up time and time again when I'm talking with my fellow citizens about the candidates is the conflict of interest with your husband being on city council. I know you're expecting the question, hope you were, and you're currently being the mayor. And I'd like to hear from you how you feel about that and how you could discuss the conflict of interest that he could have, that you and he could have being in positions within the city of Petersburg where his decisions could influence your office and likewise. So I'd like if you could speak to that for us.
Certainly, and that's a very important question and a valid question that I have been answering a lot. So this is state judicial, his is legislative. I am elected by the Petersburg citizens, but the state trains me and the state pays me. I work for the judges and the attorneys. This is an 8-year term. My husband has 2 years left on his term. He doesn't make decisions in the courts. I don't have an influence on council. There is no conflict of interest.
Actually, part of the circuit court clerk's income, about a couple thousand of it comes from the city, not from the state. So there is ties right there because they do make judgment calls on how much they're going to pay towards the circuit court clerk.
And like you said, a couple thousand. Once I get in there, update technology, we will be bringing in more than just a couple of thousand.
All right. We have a question in the back, and then we'll get to a question. Thank you.
Yes, I'm not a Petersburg resident, but by me living in the surrounding county, I am interested in what goes on in Petersburg. And my question is, how many other people work in this office that we're talking about? And the second part to that question is, why did we wait so late to do anything or say anything before everything got out of control? Because I find it inexcusable if I'm calling to search, say, my mom's death record, and I can't find it, nobody has a copy of it for 5 and 6 years. I really find that inexcusable when it's more than one person in that office.
I think unfortunately, for years, this position has ran unopposed, and there's always been a name on the ballot. So when you go in and you circle all Democrat and, you know, somebody's has their name on there, they're automatically a shoo-in because they've always ran unopposed. So no one's ever questioned what the circuit court clerk does. I think people that do work with that office extensively, you know, real estate agents, title companies, I wish they had started speaking up a long time ago, because we probably wouldn't have the problems that we have now. So, to be honest with you, I'm kind of glad that there isn't a name on the ballot, because all of these issues are being brought to light. Everyone's actually understanding what the circuit court clerk does now, and whoever is elected, guess what? All eyes are going to be on that person for a long time, and they're going to be watching to see what that person does and how they excel and how they make changes in that office.
I'd like to address that as well. This is an 8-year term. Our current clerk has been in there for 1 term. I spoke to the Bar Association right after I decided to put my name as a write-in. The Bar Association gave a lot of credit to the past clerk, not the current clerk, but the past clerk who groomed our current clerk. They give credit to that clerk for transforming the courts. When he stepped out of the office and the current clerk came in is when the issues began. The judges will tell you and the attorneys will tell you that the clerk, prior to the one we have here, transformed the courts. Since this is an 8-year term, it took us 8 years to finally have a better choice. The demise happened in just 1 simple term. And now is our chance and our first chance to be able to make that change. But prior to that, the clerk transformed that office, and I've spoken to him on several times about the challenges in that court, since he was key in transforming and still understands the challenges that we're facing in that court. But the answer to your question is because this is our first chance. People knew of the issues. Because just like you, and what the attorneys and other citizens have echoed are their experiences and what they've seen. The concern has always been there, but this is our first chance to actually make the real change.
So